Yeah.
All right, let's get the sizzle.
Get the sizzle. Super excited about this. Welcome back to the Okayest Cook Podcast. We are on location. It's Corey and I.
Yeah, man.
It's been a minute, brother.
Been a minute.
Happy to have you here with us. But we're in a new kitchen today. If you're watching, you can tell this is not my kitchen. It's a beautiful kitchen of Sonja and Alex Overheiser. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much for having us in your home. You guys are indie locals, right? Born and raised, maybe, or
Are we starting our life story now?
you don't have to go super deep, but you're
well, welcome to our kitchen.
Indiana
We're
residents.
so happy to have you here.
We met at IU as freshmen and then ended up here.
Awesome.
Nice. But yeah, Indiana cooks, chefs. Do you call yourself a chef or a cook?
Oh, definitely not a chef.
Not a chef, no.
We are cooks.
Okay.
We are home cooks. We are self-taught home cooks, actually.
That is awesome.
Awesome.
And we focus on recipe development for our website and for cookbooks. So when a lot of people will say, oh, hey, can you cater my dinner party? We're like, no. That is not part of our skill set.
Is that like the official definition of like chef to cook is like when you're cooking for other people?
Possibly.
Predominantly?
I mean, I think if you go to culinary school, you
We'll look at
probably
the dictionary
consider
later,
yourself
but-
a chef. But yeah, we cook for ourselves. We develop recipes, and we're very highly interested in how to write great recipes that anybody can do at home and take pictures of them. And then we just get to eat the food. So we don't
Yes.
have to make it for anyone, which is really the dream job.
That is phenomenal.
And I don't know if you've ever picked up a chef's cookbook. A lot of times they're beautiful, but the recipes don't work because the chef brain doesn't actually come out on paper.
Just from talking to other people, I've noticed that. Yeah, most like the chefs they don't write anything down. It's
Right.
like it's all here,
Right.
and they just do it by taste. And
Well, and there's
Or
typically
if-
17 ingredients that you don't have in your home.
Right. Or if they
17
do
hours
write
simmer.
it down,
Yeah.
they're like, oh, we'll just cook it till it's done. And you're like, well, what does that mean? I don't have that second nature.
that's funny, yeah. But also just like you, like I said, you're doing this for the home cook,
Right.
so like you need to break it down to simple terms for people
Which
like
is
me.
perfect having you on the Okayest Cooks. 'Cause we're just a bunch of
Exactly.
Okayest Cooks.
100%, yes.
Well, that's what we love about cooking is that it doesn't have to be pretentious. It doesn't have to be something that you have to study years for. You know, there are so many different avenues for becoming a home cook. And
Yeah.
that's what we did. I mean, we didn't know anything about cooking when we got
Really,
married.
just jumped in head first, and
Yeah, I mean, I was eating Hot Pockets in college. I was eating all the, convenience food. When I met Alex, he could boil water and make spaghetti. So I was like, wow, that's amazing. And yeah, we didn't know anything about food. I felt like it was just a convenience, something that you do as fast as you can so that you can get
Sure.
back to your life. And once we started learning how to cook and, watching chefs like Julia Child, I don't know if she's a chef or home cook, but people like
say
Julia
chef, yeah.
Child and getting together with friends who love to cook, we realized this can be something fun. This can be something artistic. This can be something creative. And it doesn't have to be this, convenience, like efficient part of your day. It can be a fun experience.
You're
together.
basically treating it like plug in your phone. Like avoid it as long as possible and then recharge as fast as
Right.
possible.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
but I mean that's the beauty of food is it can be as simple as you need it to be, but also as elaborate as you want it to be.
Exactly.
Which is beautiful and fun,
Right.
and terrifying
Yes.
at the same time.
I mean, I think a lot of people don't think that. They are very intimidated. And for years and years, I said, I can't cook. Like I would always say, I can't cook, and
Judging by
Just-
what you guys have put together, like in print and on the website, like I never guessed I would hear you say that.
Yeah.
It's almost like just looking at your presence online and like I said, what you've printed is like she was born into this. Like her family has to
Oh,
have
I
been
wish,
cooking,
I wish.
like generations of history.
right.
but
I wish that I
all self-taught,
had that.
really. So
Yeah.
real quick, like tell us like what inspired like the launch of A Couple Cooks? Like you just
Do you want to
You start.
speak to that?
I'll play color commentary.
Well, so I kind of alluded to it before, but Alex and I got married. We met at IU Bloomington. We were college sweethearts. We met the first day of freshman year.
Oh my gosh.
And we got married, moved to Indianapolis, got a house, and we were like, ooh, like we're real adults now. Let's have people over for dinner. And again, we didn't have any skill in the kitchen whatsoever to bring them any sort of food other than Hot Pockets or, microwave dinners or whatever. And so we said, let's figure out how to cook. Let's figure out how we can have people over and treat them to a meal. And around the same time, we were starting to be exposed to really good food. So before that, we hadn't quite really tasted what food could be. And in our first jobs, our boss was really into food. And so she would take me to our bistro, if you remember that restaurant downtown, and just other restaurants that started to show me, oh, wow, like this can be something amazing. This can be creative. This doesn't have to be just a transaction of, efficiency. And then we started surrounding ourselves with more and more people who love to cook. And like I said, we started getting cookbooks and watching cooking shows and really immersing ourselves in the kitchen. And around the same time, we read a book about how eating lots of vegetables was great for the planet and great for your health. So we're like, ooh, let's start trying that. So we started eating a lot of vegetarian and vegan food. And this was around 2010-ish time frame. So not a lot of people were doing that at that time. And we were making all these recipes that tasted so delicious, and they were, made with local seasonal ingredients, and a lot of them were vegetable based. And we were like, we should share this online. And we had a personal blog, and so we just were like
This was like pre-social media where you blogged your
Yeah,
family
exactly.
photos.
Yeah, we kept posting stuff. It was before Instagram. And we just were posting food all the time. We were like, why don't we start just like a food blog? And food blogs had only started maybe 2 to 3 years before that point. And so we read food blogs at the time, and we thought, oh, maybe we should try this. But we were very, like imposter syndrome. Like, we don't know what we're doing, but let's just do it anyway. So we started a food website, and I said, hey, what about the idea of calling it A Couple Cooks? And Alex was like, that's dumb. That's a horrible name.
We see who won that battle.
I kept pushing. I was like, oh, it's like kind of like a double meaning, like a couple cooks or a couple of cooks or a couple cooks together. Yeah. And finally I wore them down, and we started our website in 2010. And we never would have dreamed that it would become our business at all. It was phenomenal. Complete surprise. I mean, the way that technology changed between 2010 and today is incredible. So do you have any color commentary to add to this?
So you pretty much covered it all. But, and it was just a pure passion. I would just add, Sonia has a music background as a photographer. So food became a place where we could be creative together. We're kind of starting on equal ground. And discover it together versus like our own separate passions where they kind of all came together in food.
That is amazing. Yeah.
But our first recipes and photographs were very, very, very.
You won't find them online anymore.
Oh no! I was gonna say we can dig back and look.
Have you at least saved them so you have some history?
We do, yeah. But we have the recipes there, but we've re-photographed them and updated. Yeah.
But it was, I mean, at the time you could start and have no skill, and people would listen to you because there weren't that many blogs out there. There was no social media, and so people were like really excited about quinoa. They're like, wow, what is this amazing new food that you're talking about?
And even just the idea of eating real food and not processed food was still kind of a new exciting thing. So sharing recipes that didn't involve, like canned mushroom soup and stuff like that was a new concept.
Yeah, getting out of that Great Depression era. And
right.
Exactly.
Our parents cooking for us for sure, yeah. Dude, that is awesome. I love that story. And honestly, what drew me to you in the first place, obviously the photography was huge for me. Also a photographer. Like, I love how you guys are capturing. Everything you've put out just looks stunning.
Thank you.
And I think that's the first, again, from photographers, the look is 90% of the battle. Like we eat with our eyes.
Right.
So that drew me to you. And then when we started our podcast, like one of our pillars is a word, commensality. And it is essentially means like just the act of eating together or like sharing a meal together. And in my mind, commensality is like anytime you cook from a book, like I'm like through space and time, like eating a meal with you,
Yes.
but also just like your history, like what started a couple cooks, like just sharing meals with friends.
Right.
And perfect segue into your
Yes.
newest
I was gonna
project.
say, we actually wrote a book about that.
Yes.
Funny enough.
Yes, you're follow on social media, a couple cooks everywhere. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So just Google a couple cooks. They'll pop straight up. But your newest book, your second book, right, is designed to cook in tandem
Right.
with somebody else, right?
Right.
Optional, of course. Like
Right.
we
Yes.
can chat about how my wife and I get along in the
Yes.
kitchen, which is
Well, it's interesting
good,
because we've been getting a lot of, opinions about that
Yeah.
as we put this book out of like, people will say, well, I would never do that with my
We have very
spouse or
strong
whatever.
cook-clean partnership in
Yes.
the kitchen.
That's awesome.
We're
But
trying to break that. Yeah.
Again, I mean, as you alluded to, the book is just an idea, right? It's like maybe sometime find a time that you could cook something with someone.
Yeah.
But exactly what you're talking about is the communal aspect of food. And that's what we're excited about. And that's what we wanted to write about in this book is really just doing things together. And that's why we're still
beautiful.
here is because we're we did things together. Like I wanted to quit about 1.5 million times. I don't know if Alex ever wanted to quit, but I did.
It sounds like
Yes.
it sounds like the self-employed entrepreneur.
Yes.
Like,
And that was true even just making a recipe of like, we don't know what we're doing and we just ruined it. And now our dinner is nothing. And so I think because we had each other to be each other's cheerleader, that's why we're still doing this. That's why we kept pushing ourselves to get better at developing recipes, cooking recipes, taking pictures of food. So we really wanted to celebrate the idea of people and togetherness. And so whether it's you're just a solo cook, but you're cooking for people from this, maybe it's you just pick a recipe and make it with your kid or your mom or your friend or your roommate or whatever. It doesn't have to be, every single day. We had a review that was like, I don't think I could cook with my husband every single day. We're like, we don't cook together every single day. I hope that it doesn't say to do that in this book. But it's more of just the idea, as you said, of sharing food together. And that's what brought us to food in the first place.
love it. Yes.
I think when you think about food and doing things together, it's such an easy tool to even get people together is utilizing that. And like, I love that you guys are doing this. We have a thing in our home that we do once a month called a gather. So everyone comes on a Friday night, just tell us on our Facebook group that you're coming. Doesn't matter what you've been through that week. Doesn't matter who you're bringing, just bring somebody. We'll provide all the food. We're just going to cook for you. We're just going to love on you. That's how we're going to love on you.
I love that.
And we're just going to come and hang out. And it's a Friday night. So if you want to stay and play board games and hang out or whatever, the last one we had 64 people in our home.
Oh, wow.
You're kidding.
So,
Oh my god.
and it was awesome, because we had so many people from different backgrounds in our life that
so
hadn't
cool.
touched before.
Yeah.
So all over the place, from the girls' school, from our
Yeah.
church, from work, from all over the place. And they were all together in one place. And I love that. And that's why we created this and we started doing this, because we all four of us that are on the podcast regularly have different backgrounds, different cooking backgrounds, whether it's through our mothers or our grandmothers or no experience at all. That's what I love about this.
Mostly no
That's
experience.
Yeah,
so
mostly no
cool.
experience.
Alex has been talking about doing something like that. So we might have
Yes,
to talk
that's
to
a
you
dream of mine.
offline about
Yeah,
how
yeah.
the logistics
Definitely,
work.
yeah.
What do you serve when you have 64 people in your
we
house?
we stick with the easy stuff. It's a
Yeah.
lot of soups and things
Yeah.
like that. But I will say my wife has very specific dishes that she won't come off of. One thing that we didn't talk about at the beginning is our notable foods of the week. And I was going to
Totally
talk about my wife's birthday was this week, and we had friends over, and she made her chipotle chicken pasta.
Oh, nice.
And it's pretty amazing. It's people request it all the time. So it's a lot of work because there's so many ingredients that you
Yeah.
have to prepare for.
Yeah.
But she loves making it. And so that's the last one that we did. I think that's what she made.
That's great.
And then we make a lot of homemade bread too. So
I love
Well, yeah.
that.
Back to the I tend to ruin the sequence of things on the podcast a lot. You guys just got me too excited to chat.
Interesting.
But yeah, the notable foods. Did you guys have like a fun meal recently, sometime this week or past month that's like really stood out in your mind, either that you made yourself or you ate somewhere or that you've seen somewhere that you need to try and replicate? Putting you on the spot.
Oh man.
My brain passed.
Any
The
type of
coffee's
food?
wearing off.
Any
Yeah.
type of food? Okay.
Any type of food.
Well, I will say, because it's in my mind, I was just editing a video of this recipe. There's a recipe in the book. I can get it out if you're
Yeah.
ready. It's this Gouda ranch pull-apart
You sold me
bread.
already.
Ooh.
And I just made it. So we've been doing some videos just around cooking with other people to get ready for the launch of the book.
Look
my
at
goodness.
this. Let me see.
So my friend Tenoria and I, she's an actual chef. My friend Tenoria from
Oh my
Tenoria's
gosh.
Table is a real chef, a private chef. And she came over and we made this for a video. And it's just really fun. It's really delicious, obviously, with the, Gouda cheddar ranch pull-apart bread.
It's even better.
And it's just so fun to have a fun like girl cooking date together and then eat a whole bunch of bread in the middle of the afternoon.
Just getting bread drunk.
Yes, exactly.
One. That's beautiful.
And when we were designing this book, we decided to do it as occasions. Our first idea, I mean, the obvious idea is recipes for two if you're cooking together. And then we're like, no, that's not why we cook together, not just for date nights. So we have everyday meals, we have date nights, we have gatherings.
That's awesome.
And then we have
awesome.
things
Like
like appetizers.
breakfast too, because I feel like
Breakfast.
a special breakfast can be
Yes.
really fun.
Absolutely.
We're not super breakfasty people normally,
Oh man, that's my
but
jam.
That's
on
our
the
staple.
weekends we love to
Yes.
do, a fun pancake or waffle or whatever. What else do we have?
Well,
in
We
that
have an egg dish in
chapter?
there. Yeah.
Yes.
We do lots of breakfast for dinner a lot.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yes,
So
always
much.
a hit.
Well,
Yes.
that a great segue into my meal of the week
Okay.
was I did an omelet, but in a cast iron skillet, and that's a big deal for me. We just had a talk last week with Harvesting Nature, and they do. It was a big conversation about technique, which I'd love to chat with you guys about technique. I think you guys might have some hot tips, but a big hot tip of theirs was to just ditch the nonstick. Go stainless steel, go cast iron. And I know Corey's a big cast iron fan, but I've always been kind of scared of mine just because I've screwed it up more than I've done successfully. But I ripped out a successful omelet, and I was really impressed with myself. So
Nice.
I'm super happy about that. But another segue back to you guys is one of the first recipes you did that I fell in love with was your chive eggs.
Yes.
Oh,
And
wow.
that
Is a niche
changed-
recipe. I love it.
changed my life. Like, no joke. Like, I cannot have, unless it's scrambled, like I cannot have an egg that's not chive egg.
Oh, that's amazing.
So like the olive
That
oil
was
and
like
the chive
maybe
flowers,
5 or
Or
5
even
years
more,
ago or
yeah.
something, right?
but just it's that process, like
Yes.
getting it. For me, it's big texture.
Yeah.
So it's like the ripping hot oil, you get the crispy edges on the egg, and then you got like the firm whites, and then just the runny yolks. And
Yes. That was all
And
Alex,
that
so
photograph
good
is
job.
like one of my all-time
So
favorite
pretty,
food
yes.
photos because
That's
it's
awesome.
an April photograph of the chive blossoms.
Yes.
And those blossoms, it's like you get them for a couple of weeks and they taste so good. that I'm
such a
just
short
like,
window
how
of those
much
blossoms.
can I use them?
Yes.
That's funny. I
We
love that.
attempted it with the quail eggs. Remember that?
Oh, that's
Ooh.
Yeah.
it did not go so well with
No.
the quail egg.
Yeah, you
they
probably
cook a
did
little
it.
too
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah, that's funny.
But yes, so let's dive into the book a little. Unless you
Yeah.
did you have a meal you wanted to share as well? We
Oh,
kind
I
of
was going to
skipped you a
say,
little bit, but I apologize.
we are working on a new recipe for the website. That's a white bean kale soup,
Okay.
which is pretty typical for us, but I'm working really hard to use dried white beans
All right.
instead of a canned. And like every time I make beans from dried, they taste better. They're like a quarter of the price, and
Yeah.
you can make a huge batch at once. So it's like that reminder of, like I was just telling Sonia this week, of like all it took was 2 minutes the night before to soak them. And then
Well,
45
the
minutes the
planning
day
ahead
of.
is
Yeah.
the hard
planning
part.
ahead.
I know.
Yeah.
We're horrible, notoriously horrible with planning ahead.
And I'm like,
So-
if we're like, professional home cooks and I can't think ahead a day, it's like, how do we start encouraging people to do stuff like this?
Right.
That's not that hard, but your brain just has to think past the convenience of opening up a can. So
Yeah.
Yep.
that's where my brain's been at this
Yeah.
week.
Well, you're right. They're more fresh. It's just better. It's a better
you
product.
can infuse flavor. I was putting sage into the boiling water, and so then it's like they come out ready to eat.
Yeah, it sounds so good. But
And I think people just think that when you do stuff like that, it's more expensive, but it's not.
Right.
It's not necessarily more expensive.
And actually the opposite.
Yeah.
yeah, like I said, you could get a 5-pound bag of beans for probably the same as
Right.
a dozen cans.
Last you all
dozen
winter.
cans,
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Well, yeah. So you want to your second book?
Yes.
It's a self title, right? It's a couple cooks.
Right.
recipes
It's a
to
couple
cook
cooks
together.
Subtitle: 100 recipes to cook together.
Yes. A couple years in the making, right? You guys
Yes.
have been just toiling away.
Yeah. So we had the idea during the pandemic, as many ideas happen, when we were, forced to spend. I mean, we already spend 1 million hours together. I don't know why I said that.
But we didn't talk to anybody else.
Right.
Yeah.
We had
Yeah.
no outside influences. So we're like, okay, let's think about another book. And yeah, it takes quite a while. So we got our book deal maybe 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
And then we spent about a year on recipe development, and a friend of ours actually shot the book. So Shelley Westerhausen Rorsel, her handle is Vegetarian Ventures.
Okay.
She's down in Bloomington and a real dear friend of ours. And
It looks beautiful. I need to follow.
She is amazing and has a few books, but with the same publisher. And we love the look of her photos.
Yeah.
So we love doing our own, but it's just so much work having a website and also doing a book that we decided to bring on a collaborator, and that was really fun. So we worked on that for about a year, and then the publisher does all the editing and preparation for launch and printing and all that for about a year as well. So it feels like a really long time.
A little bit going on.
Yeah.
Not something you can just turn around in a couple weeks.
Right.
So. Well, I've got a pipe dream to do a book.
Yeah, you should.
Well, honestly, this podcast started because I wanted to photograph a cookbook.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
And like the other guys on the Okayest network, I approached them. I was like, hey, like your network would be awesome to like do a cookbook with. And he's like, well, do a podcast instead.
We'll get to a book.
We'll get to a book
Yeah.
eventually. Yeah, but like I would love to do the Okayest cookbook.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
So any tips? We might be hitting you up later for the cookbook
Totally.
tips.
We are
and,
here. We're an open book.
no pun intended. But yeah, this is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, I've got a good cookbook collection at home, and most of them are just because they look cool.
Yeah.
Like, and
Oh,
I'm going to be
absolutely.
ordering yours like as soon as I get to a computer because this is
thank you.
gorgeous. And again, like back to Commensality, like I just love what's going on in this book. Like it's designed and with just it's
So the really unique feature here is our graphic designer was wanting to figure out how to show how to cook together graphically instead of
you
through
kind of
words.
see a little bit here.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
So there's these little circle and square icons that
Yes.
indicate, one person could be doing these 2 steps while the next person does these, and then we'll do this step together. And
See, that's-
it's just a
Absolutely.
That's
suggestion.
perfect.
It's not
That's-
like
yeah.
the only way to make the recipe, but if you're new to cooking and it's like, oh, here's a little way to split up the task.
Well, yeah, and I think it makes it easier. Like
Yeah.
because like I get overloaded real easy.
Yeah.
And when I see this list of things to do, like I'm just like freaking out. It's like
Yeah.
I can't remember to do this and do that. And
Right.
oftentimes steps are overlapping. And
Yeah.
when you get 2 brains,
Right.
if you can work it out with your partner, my wife and I, we joke, we've got a decent sized kitchen, but it's a 1-butt kitchen.
Yeah.
I think the way we both operate, it's like we need to be in control in the kitchen, and we just we clash too much.
We talk
So-
about that in this book.
We need it. We need this book in our lives. But I think cooking together is one of those like it should be like one of the steps you do before like you enter a relationship. Like
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
it's like a test of
Yeah.
like
Oh, that would
how
be a
well
good
you
TV
mesh.
show.
Yeah.
Maybe
Oh my
we
gosh.
should pitch that to our dating show where we
100%.
force them to cook together and then we give them.
You learn a lot
Actually,
about
that
it.
leads into
Yeah.
a question that I have for you. Are you guys similar in style of how you like to cook, or are you totally opposite?
Totally opposite.
Okay.
I like to make sure that, or do all that I can to make the recipe come out exactly how it says.
Okay.
And Alex is a little more, I don't know. He's okay with making mistakes and
So you're
having
by the book,
failures.
and Alex
Yeah.
is a little bit more.
Yes.
Cooking by
he's
emotion.
just better at technique in general. So he's the one who's manning the cast iron skillet and all
Okay.
that sort of thing.
And I'm much more willing to just eyeball things. I mean, when we're not developing a recipe, I really love cooking without a recipe and just
Yeah.
going
Absolutely.
with my gut. So,
So do you, when it says like 1 tablespoon, are you just kind of like,
yeah,
Yeah,
not even.
that's good
yeah,
enough,
Just
and-
like, oh, looks good coverage there.
But with what we do, we can't do that. Like
Yeah.
when we're
Yeah.
developing our
Yeah.
own recipes, we measure everything. You have to be very like anal about
Yeah.
everything
Oh, yeah.
you're doing.
Yeah.
But if in a perfect world, he would be he's more like the like scientist, crazy, whatever.
yes, I love that.
Laboratory genius. And I'm like,
Mad scientist.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I'm trying to think of.
Yeah, mad
What
scientist.
is
There's two
Yeah.
types of scientists
Yeah.
there.
And I'm I was a classically trained musician. So I'm like, okay, I have to do it all like how it says. And,
That's a lot
so,
like my
yeah.
wife and I. So I have a skincare manufacturing business,
Oh,
and up
cool.
until 3 years ago, I didn't have a single recipe out of 400 products written down.
Wow.
And my wife
Yeah.
was like, "You have to write these down."
Yeah.
No, you just pour it for 3
Right.
seconds.
Yeah.
That feels right.
Right.
Well, the
Let's
annoying
go
thing
with
is
it.
when you write it down, it doesn't work. You're like,
No.
yeah,
No.
you
Right.
have to
How am I-
go
Right.
hard.
And then it was finally where I had to realize I have to teach college kids how to do this because that's
Yeah.
what most of our employees are,
Yeah.
college kids.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How can I dumb this down enough that they're going to pay
Right.
attention to this?
Right.
Right.
I love that. I love that you guys have opposite styles, and I think a lot of times it can work really
Yeah.
well in the kitchen if you
Yeah.
allow it to.
does.
Right.
Yeah. And then we've both had to get really humble about our opinions because we butt heads a lot.
Mm.
And we have to decide someone's going to back down. Someone has to back down. And so we've gotten better about that.
Well, the hard thing about a
I
recipe
think.
is there's oftentimes 2 good ways to like
Right.
take a direction of the recipe.
There's
It's
no
not
right
like a
or
right or
wrong.
wrong.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right, exactly. So it's hard to like say, okay, I'm taking over this soup and I'm adding kale versus like
That
I'm taking over
actually
this soup and
happened.
I'm adding pasta or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds like a lot of our kitchen drama because I like things hot, like spicy, and I think I've just fried my taste buds because I drink
Yeah.
too much coffee and too much spice. And most of the stuff I make, my wife's just like, I can't touch this. Like it's
Yeah.
too spicy.
Yeah.
So yeah, gotta think about everyone else
Right.
Exactly.
when you're cooking.
You can always add hot sauce. Never take it away.
I've heard
Yeah.
that, but the way it melds together in the pot,
I
it's
get
different.
that. I get that.
Yes. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you guys have some crazy press release stuff to do with the book today.
Yeah.
Any other hot tips or anything you want to talk about the book real fast?
Yeah, what
Just
should we say?
about-
Well, I guess there's lots of other things in the book besides recipes. So we have
Yeah.
wine pairings, which we're excited
Love
about.
that.
Alex went through. He's our wine expert and figured
Nice.
out some good pairings that go with the recipes. So we love that. We love.
gosh.
There's a dietary circle on each that
Okay,
says
yeah.
what diet it conforms to, and then ways that you can substitute.
Yeah.
Because we know that there are just a lot of people working with a
Ooh.
lot of special diets.
I just found
Oh,
the
there's
gear page.
There's our
We're-
essential
Yeah.
gear.
We're gear nuts.
Yeah.
So I love that you have this gear page.
Yes,
That is
we have
awesome.
some sample menus in the back, which
Oh,
is
my
something
word.
when I first started cooking, I was like, how do you even put together a meal? I had a really hard time with that. And
Yes.
so having just some ideas of ways that you can pair things was really helpful for me when I was just starting. Oh, and then we have lots of cocktails.
Oh my word.
So we got really into cocktails also during the pandemic.
Oh, hey.
A lot of things happened then. And so we had to have a
That's
cocktail
stunning.
chapter. So that was a fun addition.
Oh my word.
I think our first book, we were very practical. We were like,
Okay.
let's make recipes that people can make every day. And this one is just fun.
Yes.
Like we're excited about it being these recipes that you can have fun with, like this one on the back, the
Yes.
chocolate ganache tart.
Oh my
Like,
goodness.
let's just have fun and make something
Jeez.
together and not be so serious and practical about
Absolutely
cooking.
love that.
So yes.
So it's coming out soon
Comes out
as
October
of
15th.
the date of
Yes.
this recording.
Yes. So pre-orders are super helpful for authors.
Yes.
So if you can pre-order it before it comes out or like the week of launch, that's super helpful for
Definitely, yeah.
independent authors. So when you write your book, we'll make sure to pre-order it.
100%. Yes. Yes. If you're watching, listening, just go to A Couple Cooks.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
.com. Yeah.
.com,
.com.
on Instagram or
Yes.
wherever.
Yes.
They're going to be talking about this book for a little bit.
Yes.
It is 100% it's going to be one of the more beautiful books on your shelf. So
Aw,
For sure.
thank
it
you.
is
Absolutely.
like the photography is awesome. The recipes just sound amazing. I'm going to have to try a few before
Yes.
I give you my full critique. But just based on anything I've seen on your website, like you will not regret grabbing this book.
Oh, thank you.
And I know, I think on your socials, maybe in the book here too, it says it's, you mentioned about the diet. So it's a lot
Yeah.
of vegetarian, some vegan stuff,
But then there's
gluten-free
stuff
options.
that works for everyone as well as
Yeah.
meat. So
Plus,
yeah.
the only a couple cooks red meat recipe is in here. So
The
Yeah.
only
book.
one?
Yeah, we
Okay.
so on our website we have chicken and seafood and vegetarian, vegan. But in the book we did include some red meat. So we've
Okay.
got a steak and mushrooms. We've
Yes.
got a prosciutto in a few places. So
Mhm.
just things that we eat occasionally, but
Okay.
we wouldn't have maybe 10 years ago. Now we're like, okay, like this is how we eat. And so we want to share that too. And we know a lot of people like to eat a steak. So let's
Yeah,
make a
that's
we're-
awesome.
We're meat eaters a little bit.
Yeah.
Over here.
Yeah.
But I love that. Yeah, it sounds like your book is pretty flexible with
Yes.
what you want to add and how you want to add it. And
Right.
it sounds
we
like
should-
you've given notes to modify it to your specific diet,
exactly.
which is awesome.
Yeah, we wanted it to work for everyone. And
Yeah.
so I feel like these days it's helpful to have all those, dietary swaps.
Yeah.
100% yes.
I'm looking forward to getting a copy for sure. We
yes,
love to cook
absolutely.
together. So
Yeah, it'll be a good test for my wife and I. We'll see how
Yeah.
your
Let us know.
suggestions.
You try, do an experiment for us.
Yeah.
And try one recipe, the two of you.
Yes. Do you have a recommendation? Maybe you can text me later. Which one we
we'll
should
text
try.
you later. It depends on if you're doing like date night. There's
Yeah.
a whole chapter of date night stuff, or just an everyday or breakfast.
So let's make it a
whatever.
quiz show. You
Okay.
tell us like 3
Ooh.
things that you like and your wife likes, and we'll tell you a recipe.
Oh,
Ooh,
that's a good one.
I mean, what I like and my wife likes is very different. I'm kind of in a seafood phase, like any kind of fish. I'm just in love with that.
Okay.
My wife hates
I know.
seafood.
I think I
So-
was
I
going to say
know.
the same
Yeah.
thing.
1, 2, 3.
Sweet
Salmon
heat salmon.
piccata. Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah, I saw this. I saw the salmon bites in here.
Because you already
Let's go
mentioned
with
the hot
Alex.
sauce.
That was a
so
fun interaction.
Good
We
point.
have
Good point.
we have call it the sweet heat salmon in here. It's a recipe
Okay.
for 2, and it has a hot sauce glaze. But weirdly, you dump like a ton of hot sauce in, but the heat is just like mild in the final
Okay.
result. So that's what I was imagining.
Yeah.
But you tell us about the salmon
Well,
piccata.
I love the salmon piccata, and the other day we were talking about how much we love it. But if you've had chicken piccata, it's like a traditional Italian American recipe with capers and lemon juice. It's so delicious. And so we did a version with salmon. So it's like a light breading on the salmon, so the outside is crispy, and then it has this like lemon caper garlic amazingness. So that's one of my favorites in the book.
Yes, I do have salmon in the freezer.
Okay.
So I need something to use for. And salmon, oddly enough, is like the one fish that my wife can tolerate the most.
Perfect.
We did an Alaskan cruise at one point in time. And
Yeah.
she ate fresh fish, and that was a
Yes.
game changer.
So good.
I don't have any salmon, but I might try it with some grouper. I've got some grouper in the
that'd be
freezer.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so
We'll do the
you
experiment.
do it,
We'll write back
and then
and-
write back. You can even put an Amazon review if you
if I
want.
need a
as long
couch,
as
if I
it's
need a couch
good.
to sleep on, I might be hitting you up because it'll be your fault.
right? But we would love to hear. So
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
So yeah, 100%. Go to acouplecooks.com, pre-order this book. You will not regret it. It is stunning, beautiful. And I've cooked a few recipes, and everything I've tried has just been gorgeous. So
yay,
Well,
thank
thank you.
you.
even with my skill level, it turns out. So you guys do a great job, like making these awesome recipes approachable and easy to follow and manageable for people who don't really know what they're doing in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's what we're passionate about. I
Yes.
did a sourdough recipe a couple years ago, and I was like, I'm going to take
This guy.
this super complicated process and make it
so
so anybody can do it.
I have
So it
really
took me like
dumbed
6
down my
months
sourdough.
to
Yeah.
like come up with the recipe because I was like, how are we going to simplify this?
I don't use an active starter.
Okay,
In mine. I don't.
yeah.
I just I feel like that just takes too much work and too much time. I'm
Yeah.
a sports coach. I have a business. I've got all these things going on.
Get a
I don't have time
couple
for that. So I love it.
Yeah.
cool. Yes, thank you so much for your time. Typically we end with a recipe,
Okay,
but I'm just gonna tell people to order the book instead.
Yeah.
love that.
Because you get 100 of them
Yeah.
for the price of one. So we're skipping the recipe at the end because you're all just going to go order this book and write in. Tell us how it works with your partner cooking or your
Yes.
kid. I
Yeah,
love that
tell
you've
us.
got some kid interactions on your website
Love
or
that.
your socials. So
Yeah.
cook with your kid. I think that's going to be super fun and
Yes.
entertaining, if nothing else.
Right.
Exactly.
Or messy.
All of the above. But yes, it's a couple of cooks, 100 recipes to cook together. So team up with somebody,
Yes.
cook some food, share it together, practice commensality, and tell us how it went.
Love it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
you.
so much
Appreciate
for
you guys.
having us. This has been so much fun.
Yeah, it really has been. I'm excited.